Welcome to today's webinar. This is the second in our spring fundraising webinar series. If you missed last week, by the way, we had a great discussion with Jim Hillier. He's one of our fundraising coaches here. And we discussed all about how to host a profitable readathon fundraiser from beginning to end. I have the link to that recording. I'll put that in the chat here in a moment, but check that out if you haven't already. But today we are focused all about teachers, how to strategically increase teacher engagement for your school fundraising events. So thank you everyone who is joining us live here today, or even if not, you registered, thank you for that. Like I said, the webinar is being recorded, so you will receive the recording, and then I'll just mention again, because there's some few more people have joined. If you do have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. All right, so my name is Maggie. I'm the marketing director here with Get Moving Fundraising. For anyone that is new to us, just kind of a brief overview. So we help PTOs, PTAs, school groups, other youth-based kind of organizations run profitable event-based fundraisers. So everything from fun runs, readathons, dance-a-thons, we can support cash drives. And we do all of that through one-to-one coaching, as well as our platform or online donation platform called FundHub. And I bring that up here at the top of the webinar because we're going to be referencing a few tools that are available in FundHub that really do make a difference for parent groups when they're trying to engage with their teachers and get that teacher participation. So today I am so thrilled to be joined by Maria. So Maria Miles, she is a senior fundraising coach with us here, and she's also a former teacher. So Maria, you bring a very good perspective today, kind of from both sides of the equation. So welcome. Tell us a little bit about your history as a coach and educator.
Thanks, Maggie. I'm happy to be here. Like she said, I have an experience as a fundraising coach. I've been with Get Moving for 6 years, and before that, I was a teacher. I taught 5th grade for several years, and so I have the experience. I have the teacher eyes, plus I also have PTA eyes. When I stopped teaching, I knew how important the PTA had been at our school, and so I joined and was a PTA board member for 14 years, which was super fun. And anyway, now I get to, instead of teach young kids, I get to teach parent groups how to best use the tools in FundHub to have successful fundraisers.
Awesome. All right, we had something in the chat. I just want to make sure, can anyone else let me know if you can see our presentation or not? I want to make sure that you can see the visual. I just want to make sure they can see it before continuing. I saw one that said, Jody said she couldn't see it. All right, well, okay. So it's looking like they can see it now. Okay, just need to maximize your screen. So yeah, so we do, Jody, thank you for bringing it up in case you couldn't see it. I reshared just in case, but we do have a visual presentation to go along with this with some great examples and notes and tips and stuff like that. So all right, good, you can see it. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. So Maria, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us here today. Like I said, you bring a really great perspective. Just as kind of an overview of what we're gonna cover here today, overall, we're gonna learn how to increase teacher involvement in school fundraisers, particularly by learning from schools that are already doing a very good job at this. Another thing that, and actually where we're gonna start, is addressing some common challenges that parent group leaders might have when trying to get that teacher buy-in, and how you can either work around these problems or perhaps rethink those problems altogether. And then my favorite part of today is going to be when we talk about teacher incentives. So we have tons of ideas for both teachers and the classrooms that we think you're going to be pretty excited about. And then lastly, we're going to go over some practical tools that parent groups are using to make their job a lot easier when it comes to engaging teachers and staff at their school. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. So, if you're here today, I probably don't need to tell you how important it is to get teacher engagement. You probably already have a pretty good idea, like, hey, this is something we need to aim for our school. And after all, I mean, it's right there in the name: parent teacher organization, parent teacher association. So, when you have teacher buy-in that is maybe a little lukewarm or like is there, but it's not really doing that much, it impacts things. It impacts not just the school culture and kind of the ethos between students, parents, teachers, even your admin, but it also has a financial impact on your fundraisers. So we've seen through 18 years of experience kind of in the school fundraising space that families and donors really prioritize those classroom goals. So they're much more likely to contribute when they see their donation directly supporting a student or a classroom, kind of as opposed to more of just like a general fund. And part of that, of course, is teachers play such a crucial role, right? They're bringing the fundraiser into the classroom, they're building that student excitement, they're driving that participation, which then naturally flows into the home and gets the parents on board. So, as a group leader, as a fundraising chair, you really want to focus on those classroom goals. And part of that is getting that teacher engagement. Not only are you going to raise more, but another great point is that it makes your fundraiser more inclusive, because regardless of the student, individual ability, whether that's physical, mental, financial ability to kind of contribute, they're all a part of a classroom and the classrooms are all involved. So it makes your event a lot more inclusive for your whole school. So then what's stopping us, right? It's like an obvious, like no brainer. We need teacher engagement, but there are some common challenges that parent groups might face when trying to get their teachers to participate. So we have a few listed here. One is it might be a policy issue. So you might have a policy at your school or even district level that kind of limits the direct communication that you have with teachers or like what you're allowed to ask them to do. Another concern might be overstepping boundaries. Like we all know teachers are so busy. We as parent, group volunteers, we don't want to be like interrupting class time or, putting more on their plate. So that might be kind of a hesitancy on our part. And then on the other side of that, teachers might not really understand the impact that they can have for the fundraiser. They might not see how they're such a central part of kind of that domino effect that when they're involved, you reach your fundraising goals, which then creates better experiences for your school and enriches the student's experience. So they might not see how their impact makes a difference. And then lastly, and this, I'm sure, Maria, you could agree, like for more of our first time volunteers, just like that uncertainty, like, okay, no, I need teacher buy-in, but like, how much is too much? What should I be sharing? How should I be sharing it? And so these are all great questions and really common challenges that we've seen through a lot of the schools we work with. So Maria, as our senior fundraising coach, as a former teacher, I mean, what do you make of these challenges and what are some ways that, people watching and listening might be able to kind of either overcome them or, like we said, sort of rethink them altogether?
Now that's great because none of us want to bother the teachers, but like you said, we have to have their help to be successful. And, throughout the years, I've heard a lot of different challenges, like we are not allowed to ask the teachers to do anything. And one way that you can overcome that is ask the principal to help you. A lot of times, a principal, because they're the leader, they set the tone for the school. So if they're positive and they ask the teachers to help, the teachers will most likely be more engaged. But if they don't want you to communicate with the teachers, then ask the principal, hey, can you help me with announcements? Can you help me like morning announcements or sending messages home? They can kind of fill that spot if you're not allowed to talk to the teachers. I know for me, with my PTA eyes on, you don't want to bother teachers. I know how busy they were or are, but also what you do as your parent group with these fundraisers affects the teachers, and they can really benefit as teachers and as students, getting money for field trips or classroom supplies. So even though we don't want to ask for their help sometimes, it benefits them and they're happy to help. And especially if they understand, like, I think if you clearly communicate your purpose and what the money will go toward and how it can benefit them, most teachers are really happy to help. They just don't know what to do. And
Yeah.
we kind of guide you through that and give you some ideas of what things you could do to help engage your teachers and get them involved so it's super easy.
Yeah, that's the importance of a coach, because we're here, we're doing a webinar about teacher engagement, but every school is different. Every,
For sure.
staff, teachers are all different kind of across the board. So that's why having a coach, so Maria is a coach, a fundraising coach, she can work with you for your specific school and figure out like, okay, what's the best way to engage our teachers in particular. But great stuff there, Maria. I really like the idea of getting the principal involved. I mean, that has benefits beyond just teacher engagement too. Like we have seen, if a principal is involved, you're not just going to get teacher engagement, but the students are also going to be so excited. And you're giving kind of like legitimacy to your fundraiser, also to your parents when you have that the principal buy-in too. So really
For
great
sure.
tip there. All right. So we understand the importance of teacher buy-in, right? We understand the importance of communicating with our teachers. But how do we do that? One of the biggest mistakes I think we see, especially for schools that maybe are new to working with us, is they only communicate with teachers, if at all, at the beginning of their event, at kind of at kickoff. And then they're just kind of expecting them to stay engaged the entire time. And like you said, teachers are busy. I mean, the reality of it is the fundraiser, if it's not integrated into the classroom and kind of into what they're already doing, it can easily slip off the radar. So, Maria, I know as a coach, you probably give kind of recommendation for I guess you call it like a cadence of communication, kind of a timeline. But what do you typically tell schools, kind of a general guideline for how often to communicate with teachers during a fundraiser?
Yeah, no, that's great. I think, like you said, it's super important. One thing that I recommend is communicating with the teachers what you're doing, how long it will be, all of the nitty-gritty details. And one of the best ways that you can do that is asking the principal if you can go to a staff meeting. Especially if they don't want you to be communicating throughout the fundraiser, that gives you a platform for a few minutes that you can let them know, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how it will benefit you as teachers and the students at our school. This is how you can help.
Mhm.
We provide a teacher login tips and tricks video that, as well as a staff letter, and it kind of gives them background on what the fundraiser is about. And if they have questions, we have a super quick video that they can watch. But doing updates throughout the event, I think, is really important. Letting teachers know and asking them to check their classroom web pages to
Yeah.
communicate that with their student can be really helpful. But we have like classroom goal updates that you can share with teachers throughout your fundraiser. And then even as a chairperson, saying like, hey, you could just send an email to a teacher. Hey, it looks like you have almost 50% of your kids registered. That's amazing. Can you help me out? Sometimes an ask, something specific that you ask. Oh, sure. I'll send that out to the
Yeah.
kids. Sometimes
Being
they just
specific, I
don't
think, is important.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that makes a lot of sense. It's not that teachers don't want to be involved. They don't want to have to interpret what that means. So giving
Right.
them like very clear direction, especially, if we're talking about sort of timeline, I mean, like, do you recommend that they even do something kind of before the kickoff? Because I know some schools kind of do like a pre-kickoff sort of like awareness, like, hey, this is coming up. So
Hmm.
they're not like shocked and surprised when they get an email about like, hey, our fun run has kicked off. It's like, what? I didn't know we were doing that.
Right.
So I think that that's part of it too, is like kind of prepping them that like, hey, this is coming. This is going to be school wide. And hey, by the way, here's the three things we're going to ask of you. And just keep it very simple and to the point. And then, like you mentioned, there's some more resources that we offer through FundHub that also makes that super easy for fundraising chairs and organizers like that too.
Well, and I
Um,
think you touched on something really important that I failed to mention. We just need to make it easy. If it
mhm,
seems complicated or hard, it's too much. But
yeah.
making it easy and showing them how easy it is helps to set them up for success. They'll be willing to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this kind of goes into another question I have. So we have on here, you can see on this slide kind of a good sort of general baseline for how often, throughout your donation period to communicate with teachers. But what about the method of communication? Like, email obviously is kind of a go-to. You mentioned a staff meeting, which I think is so smart because you can do that in person,
Mhm.
which I love this example. We had a school that did, I think maybe they went to a staff meeting. It was something in person, and they brought like bags of popcorn with a little tag that said, like, popping in to say thank you for participating in our fun run. Or like one said, like, just here to butter you up so that you participate in the fun run. And this was all before it had even kicked off. So it was kind of a preemptive, like, hey, thank you, for your participation. But that stuck with me because I thought that was so cute the way that they did that in person. So what are some more like, what do you recommend for the method of how to communicate with teachers?
I think just sending those email, you can send an email update to them where their classroom is.
Yeah.
Um, Again, a lot of it's the same, but asking the principal to send a message out to remind teachers. That's always helpful because they're the boss and
Right.
teachers will respond to them. But you mentioned, just even throughout the fundraiser, letting them know how grateful you are for their help. Just, hey, your class is doing so great. Thanks so much. I can tell that you're sharing your fundraising page with your kids. Just acknowledging effort goes so far in getting teachers or anyone to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then some of the images we have here on this slide. So tell us about the one with the t-shirt. Let's start with that. So that's from Silver Lake, I believe. What did they do to kind of keep teachers engaged throughout the donation period?
Oh, I love this. They did a traveling trophy, and you can do lots of different things like a real trophy, stuffed animal, like your school mascot, anything. But these traveling trophies go from classroom to classroom throughout your event, and the kids, they get excited about it. They want the classroom trophy in their room, and that gets the teachers involved as well. You can rotate it weekly, or you can also do daily or every couple of days challenges that the trophy moves. Okay, today the class with the highest registration gets the trophy. Or,
Oh, yeah,
the
that's a
next
good
day,
idea.
who had the most donations last night? So you can communicate different little challenges and pass the trophy along. I kind of like passing it more often because it keeps the awareness up,
Right.
not just doing it weekly. That's something that I've
Yeah.
seen can help.
Absolutely. And that I love that because you're incorporating some friendly competition between the classes, and then you're making the communication like integrated with your kind of incentive program. It goes hand in hand. And another event, so you had brought up Silver Lake, and then the other image we have on here, this one comes from another school that worked with us. Instead of a trophy, they did a cutout of their mascot, and they had a road runner fun run, and then the top class for the week got to do basically a photo op with the Roadrunner mascot. And I mean, we had talked about in the previous slide that really, when we're talking about teacher engagement, like it does boost your numbers. And if we're looking at numbers for this one for Aspen, they had 85 participation average in their classes, raising about 2,500 per class. And the top was actually the little kindergartners. They kept top of the class leaderboard. So using methods like this, when you kind of rethink about the way, how do I communicate? How do I keep my teachers engaged? Um, Email's great. Email works, social media works, but sometimes getting physically into the classroom and
Mhm.
doing something like a traveling trophy, a traveling mascot, it just makes it a lot more fun. And again, kind of going back to like, it makes it a lot more inclusive for all the students as well. Um, all right, so this is kind of a good segue. We've talked about communication, excuse me, communication cadence. Now let's talk about, like I said, my favorite part, the incentives. So we have plenty of great ideas here, even more on the next slide. But the one thing, and Maria, you had already kind of said, is the key to a lot of this is keeping it simple. You really want to focus. This is something we often preach here at Get Moving. Focus on experiences over products. It's not only going to save you money, but it's going to create something a lot more fun and memorable for the students as well as for the teachers. So we recommend incentives at both like classroom and individual teacher level, like kind of having a combination of both so that there's something that the students can look forward to, but then there's also like a little perk specifically for the teacher. And so we have some ideas here. One of them is a dress down day. So there's no cost, but it is a favorite for students and for teachers, especially if you work at a school where like maybe you require uniforms if you're in a private school. Gift card raffles, again, super easy. And if you have local business sponsors, a lot of times you can get your gift cards donated. So if you contact any local businesses, restaurants, things like that, you can sometimes get your gift cards and then do those in a raffle for your teachers like every week. Which is brings up a really good side note. If you are watching this live, we are currently doing a giveaway actually for Teacher Appreciation Week in May. We are giving away a gift card bouquet for teachers. So we're going to have two school parent groups will win this. They're valued at $350. It's a vase. There's a bunch of faux flowers in there, and then attached to the flowers are gift cards. So you can give those out to your teachers for teacher appreciation. So I have a few links I'm going to put in the chat kind of when we're wrapping up with questions, and that's one of them. So if you do want to enter that giveaway, you are more than welcome to do so. We'll have that open actually through March 19th, and then on March 20th, we'll reveal the winners. But yes, gift card raffle, super popular, super easy if you use sponsors. And then the last kind of category I want to bring up for individual teachers is just like special perks. So like VIP parking spot, a catered lunch for some of your like, the top 3 classes, those teachers get a catered lunch or something. Extra time off duty or not having to go out and do, recess duty, things like that. So probably all stuff, Maria, you'd want to get like approved by admin, but even I
For
would say
sure.
admin could have more ideas too. Like maybe they're like, oh, yeah, we could do this for our teachers or we could do that. It'd be a great way to kind of get the principal involved. We have a couple more class examples here. So this one came from a school that did a school-wide assembly, and then the top donor in each class got to pie their teacher in the face. We had one here where they did a glow-in-the-dark party for their top performing classes as well. So really good ideas there for incentives. And then on here we have some more ideas, like I said, but Maria, I want you to kind of tell us about this example from Cedar East, because I think they did something pretty unique for their teachers.
Yes, I love this, and they have done this for years, and they give teachers 10% back of their classroom goal if they hit the target. And a lot of schools do this, and it's really effective because teachers have skin in the game, kind of, and they can see, oh, if I help in promoting, they recognize my efforts, and I can earn some money to go back to the things, for the things that I need in my classroom.
Right.
And so the teachers get super involved. They get a lot of classrooms hitting their goal. Their original goal is like 12,000, and I think, they're in the mid 20s every year because they get so many classes that reach their goal. One thing that I love that they do is they have excellent social media, and when a classroom reaches their goal, they give each class a shout out. As you can see in the slide, congratulations, Team Robbins, or the different teams get just their own little shout out, letting the community know that they've reached their goal. And it gets teachers involved. You can see in the slide down at the bottom, one of the teachers, yeah, they made a comment. So that was a way that they got teachers engaged because they have a good social media effort throughout their fundraising to promote.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. And it looks like, yeah, so they announced they got a silly string party, and then the teacher commented like, "Oh, my students are gonna love this." And that, I mean, this on its own, like when parents see that, it's like, okay, this fundraiser is like making stuff happen. Like the teachers are involved, the classrooms are winning stuff. Like, let's go ahead, let's share the web pages, let's get more donations. So it's really about kind of building on that momentum. And I love the example of 10% going back to the classrooms to kind of offset what we all know teachers a lot of times are paying out of pocket for like supplies and things like that. Um, all right, well, we're almost at time. Before we wrap up here, this is a great time. If you do have any questions, please put them in the chat. We will stay on to answer anything that comes up. But before we do wrap up, I did want to highlight just a few tools that parent groups are using when they work with us and utilize FundHub as their platform. And these are resources that are specific to today's discussion. So there's over 33 features on FundHub. We would be here for a while if I went into detail for all of them, but these are just some highlights for what we have for classrooms. So you can see here, this is an example of a classroom web page accessible on any device. So you could also be looking at this on your phone. And this is what parents and donors see, and they can actually go and donate directly to the classroom to help them reach their goal, which you can kind of see in this green bar here. They've reached 100% of their goal. The other thing we have is we have actually a teacher login and a teacher dashboard. So your teachers actually have access, if you choose, to FundHub. So they can go in, they can even edit their classroom web page, they can check on progress in real time. And it really makes the fundraiser accessible for your teachers without them always having to go through you for every single update and every single question. They're able to just go and check on their classroom webpage. Okay, how much did we raise? What are our incentives? What are we going to earn? And then the other thing, which is already circled here, is our activity tracker. So this is a feature on FundHub where if you're hosting a readathon, for example, so if you were with us last week, we talked a little bit about this. Your teachers can actually go on and update the tracker. So if their class did 30 minutes of quiet reading, they can go on and say, okay, let me update the tracker. And then that displays in real time how many reading minutes or, laps ran. If you can change it, it's customizable for the activity. And then the last thing, we've talked a lot about friendly competition, but then some of you might be thinking like, okay, that's great, but like, how am I keeping track of that, right? Like if you don't have a platform, that becomes a lot harder to encourage that participate or that competition because you're not able to see in real time how much each of your classes have raised. So we have a feature, it's called the Classroom Leaderboard. It's really fun. It's displayed right there and it updates in real time. So your parents and teachers and students can always see who's at the top. And then a lot of times we'll have schools associate incentives for that, like we already said. So Maria, these tools, I know you coach on a ton. Anything else I kind of missed here? Anything that you wanted to point out or that you coach your schools on with utilizing these tools?
I love these tools. And you mentioned these classroom web pages, and we've talked about how it needs to be fast and easy. If teachers will just pull up this page for 30 seconds every day or two, show them to their student, hey, let's see, what did we raise? It gets kids excited. So it's super easy for the teachers, but it's so effective in helping classrooms reach their goal. And it just gets them involved and it gives them their own place that they can be proud of. Like, here's our own donation meter. They have their own donation map. And one thing I always recommend is in our toolbox, we have a lot of different resources. We have classroom posters, and I love those. Like each classroom, they can track their progress. And it's when you hang that up in a class, it's a visual reminder to students, and they want to, mark how much they got. And they'll ask the teacher, hey, can we fill in our poster? And we just provide so many resources to make it fast and easy as for you as a chairperson, but also for the teacher. They want to help. They want to see their classroom succeed. And if we make it easy, they will engage.
Absolutely. And I love what you brought up here. So this is, these are just a couple like snapshots of the templates that Maria was mentioning. So we have this, so we've already talked about Fund Hub, and then within there we have an event toolbox, and that is over 100 resources similar to this. So we have a bunch that are specific to getting teachers engaged, like she mentioned. The classroom posters are a hit, and then we also have some like achievement posters. So this class has reached, this percentage of their goal, in case you wanted to emphasize like classes who get halfway. And then that encourages them to get to that 100%. So they get that poster on their class door. So really good stuff there. All right. So we are currently at time. I don't see any questions in the chat. Now is the time to put them in case anybody does have questions. In our last couple minutes here, I do want to emphasize that next week we will be rounding out our 3-week spring fundraising webinar series. We're going to have a webinar same time next Tuesday talking about school grants, local business sponsorships, as well as matching gift donations. So really great topic there. So make sure that you sign up for that. I will be putting that link as well as the other links I had mentioned in the chat. So if you still have access to the chat, please check that out. Otherwise, you can find us on social media for any of this. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest. We're at Get Moving Fundraising, and we're always posting, experiences like webinars. We're posting giveaways, as well as a lot of the tips that we talked about here. So it's a really valuable space if you follow us on social. Maria, anything else that you want to kind of leave our viewers with? Thank you so much for being a part of this, by the way. I thought that this was a really great conversation about getting our teachers involved.
Yes, no, thank you for having me. Just wanted to remind everyone that teachers are your secret sauce. Find a way to involve them because, like we said, when classes reach your goal, you will get to when classes reach their goal, you will reach your overall school goal. And we just have so many things to help make it easy for, like I mentioned, as a chairperson and as teachers. If you're interested, take a tour. We do quick online tours. We show you the different features we have, how we make it easy for parents, teachers, and donors. And anyway, it's just, they can be a great help to your fundraiser.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. If you did register, you'll get a recording of this webinar either this afternoon or early tomorrow morning. And thank you so much. And Maria, thank you so much. And until next time, we'll see you guys. And remember, keep moving. All right. Thanks.
Bye.